All right, now we're taking a walk into the food forest. So it's summer of 2024 here, and this is my third summer living here. Before I was here, this land was logged, well, selective timbered, it wasn't clear cut. January, February 2017. So here we are about 7 years after logging, and they left some stuff. There's a tulip poplar, black locust, tulip poplar, but you can see the forms of the trees are really weird. They're now experiencing their lower trunks exposed to the light, and so they're sending out a lot of horizontal branching. These particular trees weren't desirable to the loggers because of their form, or they were too small or whatever. But what I'm getting at with this is that once the trees were cut out, the understory responded by basically becoming one giant multiflora rose bramble patch. So my three dominant weeds here are multiflora rose, tulip poplar, and pawpaw, because we're in the heart of pawpaw country. So those are the three things that I'm constantly cutting out of the way here. And so these trails were not accessible when I moved in. So it's been a pretty laborious process of not only clearing pathways, but using existing canopy gaps to plant the future canopy for succession, and also tactically taking down trees. So a lot of these, see that tulip poplar there, it's probably like a 3-year-old tree there. Here's a pawpaw, that one's probably a 3 or 4-year-old tree. I know, because when I cut these down in the winter, their growth rings are just ridiculous. So yeah, I'm cutting down a lot of trees like that, making more space for the canopy that I'd like to see succeed in this space. And so there's an old stone wall over there. You can't see it because it's covered in brambles. But this is west, and that's vaguely east. So kind of northeast, I guess. So from the entrance, which you can see there, I don't want tall shade-bearing trees right up against that wall, because they're gonna then shade into the only open area I have right there, which is about an acre that's open. And so if I plant tall canopy trees there someday, or if I plant them now, then someday they're going to cast these long afternoon shadows out into my production area. So instead, I have in my plan set back that, for 100 or 200 feet from this entrance out to there is going to be shrubscape. So I'm going to have persimmons and hazelnuts, pawpaws, plums, things that can cast dappled shade like honey locust and so on, kind of in a step up pattern until it gets to the 100+ foot heights of what the future canopy is going to have further on there. So that way onward will be oak, hickory, chestnut, and so forth. That'll be the zone for those over there. So I've got a Chickasaw plum here, nice hazelnut, hybrid hazelnut, and I've got a few honey locusts. So I've got Monroe, I've got Millwood, I've got a chinkapin, I've got a persimmon in there, Rubus odoratus, kind of grafting pawpaw varieties onto root suckers. So I've got Potomac here, I've got Wabash over here. These are both Peterson varieties, patented. And then here's the start of the future canopy. So this is a shagbark hickory graft Yoder number 1. It's a variety that comes from Ohio, but real close to the Pennsylvania border. So it was found by a deceased Pennsylvania nut grower named Charlie Thatcher, who lived outside of Pittsburgh. And I believe he got the original tree from an Amish farmer that he was connected with. It's a moderately large nut, not super large, but what its characteristic is just really thin shell and cracks like butter. So really beautiful nut. And you can see there's been a tremendous amount of growth on this graft this year. That's a good 2 feet of vertical growth that I've gotten this year. That's the most growth I've ever gotten on this tree thus far. So first they creep and then they leap, and this tree is beginning to leap. That's very exciting. This one is Richmond Furnace. Same story here. This one's grafted on pecan, and I've seen the most growth on this tree since it's been in the ground. There's a solid foot of vertical growth. So what I do for my tagging system is I put a piece of PVC pipe in the ground with these metal tags. That way, you know, nothing will go wrong. It won't rot away, or the tree won't outgrow it, and the branch will squeeze through or anything like that. So this will just stay here at the base of the tree. Richmond Furnace 2021, that's when it was planted. So here it is in the 3rd season, and it's pushing 3 feet tall total, which is not large, but like I said, first they creep and then they leap, and this one is beginning to leap as well. Now as it continues to grow more, I'll be clearing some of the stuff around it. So a lot of that trail work and such I do in the winter. When the leaves are off the multiflora rose, I can cut the bottoms really efficiently, either with a brush scythe or with a handsaw or a chainsaw, or sometimes even just hand pruners, depending on how thick it is. There's another hickory here. This one is called Parker, in honor of Parker Coble, one of my mentors. This was a seedling that got away from him in his orchard, and it first bore a nut in maybe 2018. He passed away November 2020. And when it first bore, he called me aside and he's like, "You see that tree? That thing can't be more than 7 or 8 years old." And sure enough, here's this 20-foot tall shellbark hickory. And I just have to trust him on his word that it was that young. But I've since found in literature where it's confirmed that shellbarks can be that precocious. So anyway, I grafted it. It's believed to be a seedling of Longenecker. We don't know what it was pollinated by, but it really closely resembles Longenecker, which is another grafted tree he had right next to it. So that checks out. So here's the native canopy that's here already. We've got pawpaw. I don't know if you can see those fruits up there on this video, but it's a sizable tree. So here on the Susquehanna, we're in the heart of pawpaw country. In late September through late October, you can basically gather pawpaws all day, every day, up to your eyeballs until you're sick of them. So, I enjoy eating a couple per day here and there when they're in season, but it's not something that I treat seriously for an agroforestry context. I think it's great to have a little grove, but if you're really interested in native fruit production, persimmon is where it's at. Persimmon all the way. So here's another trail. You can see here there's a lot of early successional tulip trees, tulip poplar, basically a thicket. So I have no reason to cut them out right now, but as my trees in the understory establish themselves and get bigger and they're ready to reach for the skies, then I'll be cutting these trees out. Right now they're great because they bring shade, they host mycorrhizae, they build soil fertility in the form of leaf litter and root structure and soil aggregation, all that good stuff. So here we've got a Weschke hickory, This nice little glade here. There's not much canopy. I've got a bunch of wild ginger planted here. This is a seedling bed, like a nursery bed. Of course, I didn't weed it, and now it's full of Japanese stilt grass. But all of these wild gingers were planted from cuttings. So if you go out maybe about the beginning of June, when the seed on the wild ginger is ripe, you can sort of just gently tug on the ginger and it'll break free, and there will be some strings of root hairs on it. Prune it back to a single leaf, stick it in the ground, and you basically get 100% take. And you don't even remove the original plant. So you're basically just breaking off a little piece of the root. It's one beautiful thing about horticulture. It breaks the rules of mathematics. It's the only field where you can multiply by division. There's another hickory over here. As you can tell, I've got a thing for hickories. This is Holterman. It's a nice shell bark variety. And then over here I've got some beds of golden seal, trillium, nice big leaf magnolia there from my friend Carl in North Carolina. Thanks, Carl. The tree's looking beautiful. Phacelia bipinnatifida. And I've got Eastern camas over here, which the deer absolutely love to eat. It's in the Asparagaceae family. And I want those flowers, not just because they're pretty, but to make a lot of seed. I'm trying to propagate this important species. So that's what this little fence is for. Keep the deer off of those. And then I've got seedling beds here for Eastern camas. I've got seedling beds here for trillium, and there's Phacelia pershii, the Miami mist. There's lots of bluebells. A lot of this stuff is just from scattered seeds, so that's another thing I do. That beautiful Jeffersonia twin leaf. This is boar hog root, the Ligusticum canadense. The deer absolutely love this, so that's why I've got to cage it. Anyway, there's a lot to show off here. The best time to see it right now is in the spring, because that's when all the spring ephemerals come up, which they're now fully dormant. And also it's hard to see exactly what's happening in these videos, but that's a little taste, so thanks.